Come a chameleon. You come and go. You come and go. Loving be easy if your colors were like my dreams. Red, gold, and green. Red, gold, and green. I'm Julian Greystoke, and welcome to a channel where if you don't like your reviewers to sing occasionally, you're out of luck. I'm also going to stop saying I'm sorry because I am not. Today I am dressed in green for a very special reason. Today is a very exciting day, you guys. I got my first patron at the Boss Me Around level, where they basically... Today is a very exciting day, you guys. I got a patron at the Boss Me Around level, and they decided to see if I would read and review a couple of different books that they selected, and I could pick from, like, the ones that they offered, and this one looked the most interesting to me. This book is called Shades of Grey, and first of all, can we please just stop? Can we just all agree as authors to stop titling our books Shades of Grey? There are 8 million books with like some form of Shades of Grey as the title, and it just needs to end. It's over. That trend is over. Kill it. I'm going to read you guys the synopsis because even though I just finished this book, I don't know if I can properly explain it. This is not the sort of book that I would necessarily normally choose to read myself, but it's good to break out of my comfort zone. Let's just see what Goodreads has to say this book is about. Part social satire, part romance, part revolutionary thriller. I wouldn't call it a revolutionary thriller, but okay. Shades of Grey tells of a battle against overwhelming odds. In a society where the ability to see the higher end of the color spectrum denotes a better social standing, Eddie Russet belongs to the low-level House of Red and can see his own color, but no other. The sky, the grass, and everything in between are all just shades of gray and must be colorized by artificial means. Eddie's world wasn't always like this. There's evidence of the never-discussed disaster, and now, many years later, technology is poor, news sporadic, and the notion of change abhorrent. And nighttime is terrifying. No one can see in the dark. Everyone abides by a bizarre regime of rules and regulations, a system of merits and demerits, where punishments can result in permanent expulsion. Eddie, who works for the color control agency, might well have lived out his rose-tinted life without a hitch. But all that changes when he becomes smitten with Jane, a Grey, which is low caste in this color-centric world. She shows Eddie that all is not well in a world that he thinks is just and good. Together they engage in dangerous revolutionary talk. Talk is right. Talk is about all we get for most of this book. Stunning, imaginative, very funny, tightly plotted, with sly satirical digs at our own society. I wouldn't call them sly, but there are lots of those. Alright, so I guess that basically sums it up. This book is kind of plotless, and I think that this overview demonstrates that. But let's talk about this more. I've got my new notebook out. Let's do this review. Right away, this is one of those snappy, sarcastic, satirical, somewhat comedic books that I don't normally read. You do find this in Gaiman, you do find this in Terry Pratchett, and those are the two that I've mostly read it from. I'm not a huge fan of these kinds of books. The writing style isn't as much for me. But I know there are lots of people who love this kind of thing, so that would not deter many people from reading this book. In the level of importance in this book, world building is like on top, possibly followed far down the ladder by characters, and then last of all, plot. Plot is the least important in this book. It is 90% setup and world building. And honestly, that's because the real point of this book is the commentary, is the social satire, is the dissection of all kinds of things in our world. So if you're into that kind of book, that's probably going to speak to you. I am not so much. The main character is one of those hapless, blandy boys that you often find in books like this. He's just there for you to insert your own personality onto. He just sort of aimlessly wanders through the plot and is drawn forward usually by an interest in a girl. And yep, this is him. This is exactly him. I've seen him a million times. He's like the Mary Sue who isn't actually good at anything. And his romantic interest is what I am coming to call the manic pixie angry girl. She's pissy, she doesn't like anyone, she has good reasons, and she's there to show our Blandy boy a greater world if only he would listen to her and follow her, because she, somehow, has the key to everything. And the side characters are also present. Honestly, the one I like the best is the dad of the main character. He is a doctor in their world, which is, this world is really wild and confusing, and there's a lot going on that I cannot explain in one review. I do recommend, if you like world building, you check this book out. But anyway, the dad character has the most complexity of anyone because he is a rule follower, but also you get to see the little times where he will bend or break the rules surreptitiously, and I really like that. He's like the only one who seems to have maybe some nuance to his character, and we unfortunately do not get very much of him. Now, all of this flatness in characters may be intentional. It may go along with the theme of only being able to see one color, of being stuck as one personality trait, but I don't honestly know if that's the point. I think I would have to read future books to learn if that's like the point of why everyone is so like, you get one personality trait each. We can't afford for you to have multiple personality traits in this economy. Are you kidding? There are a lot of things this book wants to discuss. It is way more interested in talking about this stuff than it is in its characters or its plot. And it's also very British. I don't know if the author is British, but a lot of the discussions of classism in this struck me as incredibly British. But yes, it talks about classism, religion, modern societal structure, we live in a society, forgotten pasts and the mistake of forgetting your past and not learning from it, a lot of intentional forgetting or obscuring of the past, and what it means to just live your life or whether you're living life, if that makes sense. Like, what gives you fulfillment? Learning that maybe life is supposed to have fulfillment. I will say of this world building, this world is very strange and different to what I've experienced before. I don't know, maybe if people have read more of these sort of weird dystopian satirical books, because I'm sure there are lots of them. Maybe this world building isn't as original, but I felt like it was pretty original, and I was also never lost, which is good. Like, if you're reading this book, the author does a really good job of making sure that you see the world and understand the world and are never wondering, what does that mean, or what's going on with that, unless you're supposed to be. You also definitely get a feeling that there's a lot more going on in this world than our hapless one-dimensional hero is finding out about in this book. I'm sure in future books, because I think there are 2 more, I think it's a trilogy, he will find these things out. But I don't know if I'm going to read those books. I'll talk about that at the end here. But I have some theories. Theory 1, they're all robots. Theory 2, they're all defective clones, and their creators have either died or are on a different part of the planet. And theory 3, they can actually see all of the colors, they just are told that they cannot. Which would, I feel like, be the ultimate dictatorship situation if they wanted to go that way. They so strongly believe that they cannot see other colors and they live in such a rigid world that they have just convinced themselves that they can't. I don't think that one is true. Mind you, we don't really get a lot of evidence of it in the book, and there might be some evidence later in the book to disprove it entirely, but these are my theories that I'm just having fun toying with. It's also fascinating to wonder if they got any of the colors right, because we have discussions now about whether 2 people actually see green the same way. So like, what if they're wrong? I wonder how many colors they are wrong about and have just, like, society has just told them this is red. This is what red is. There are some colors, like green, which is blue and yellow, that are made of 2 colors that might be harder to be like, yes, that is green, but it'd be wrong, and actually it's purple or brown or something. The style of writing in this book does tire me out a little bit. It is in a constant state of wanting to be witty and clever, and the writing always having to be snappy and not maybe as straightforward as I wish it would be. And sometimes this style of book can start to feel like it's talking down to me a little bit as a reader. It's like the author maybe thinks a great deal of their cleverness and really wants to show that to you. Another thing I liked with the world building is I like the slang, I like the titles that people have, I like how this world was so fully tailored to this color theming. Like, the doctor is called the Swatchman, I love it. I don't know why I love it so much, but every time they were like, call the Swatchman, I was like, okay. That's clever. That's cute. That's clever. In this world, it's really weird. Everything is controlled by colors that you are being shown. So, like, if you are sick, you are shown a certain color, and that makes you better somehow. Which makes me wonder about these guys being clones or robots or something like that, because physically they do not function like humans, really. Also, all of their pupils are fixed in dilation, which is why they can't see at night. That may be a little bit of a spoiler, but I don't think it's too much of one. This book keeps you going with what I am calling POP. Pop. That is Promise of Peril. In the beginning, you are shown right away that the main character is going to be in dire peril toward the end of the book. And then you are just teased with that throughout as he very slowly makes his way toward the peril. He is going to eventually, you know, be being consumed by a giant plant. And I can't get the Homer Simpson bit out of my mind.
It's eating us!
Not a chance.
Wow, Dad, how did you do that?
It's a flower.
But anyway, the book just teases you and teases you with eventually he's going to be there, eventually he's going to be there. And when he finally gets there, it feels kind of like an anticlimax. I'm not a big fan of slow books that just go, there's gonna be action, just hold on for it. If you're gonna have Promise of Peril, I want the peril to happen a little bit like closer to when you promised it, not all the way at the end of the book. Just hang in there, just hang in there. He's gonna be in mortal peril, just wait for it for such a long time through this very British discussion of society and who you can marry and falling in love and dealing for spoons, and it's just like, can we get to the peril anytime? They even tease you where he encounters a different giant deadly plant, but that isn't the peril, and he gets away from that peril. So ultimately, I liked my time with this book well enough, but I think if I was left alone with it, I might have DNF'd. Not out of like rage or anger or a strong dislike, but just because it kind of got real boring toward the middle, and I think I would have just set it down. I just never picked it up again. The audiobook, which I was listening to, was well narrated and worth the listen if you're curious about the audiobook. I will say that I did like in this world that gender isn't really a consideration that much. And the secondary sex characteristics that people like nowadays are completely like ignored. Nobody talks about boobs or butts or tits, which I found so refreshing. The main character fancies the love interest because he thinks she has a really attractive nose. And I am just on board for a world in which what we find attractive about people has completely changed. But anyway, that's what I thought about this book. Would I read the sequels? I just want to go read a synopsis. I don't want to wade my way through more of this kind of writing to find out more about what happens and, you know, find out all the secrets, but I do want to know the secrets. It's really a catch-22. So I might just go read like a synopsis of the next two books if I can find them. If you have read the next two books and you want to like mark it as a spoiler and then put the plot of them in the comments, please do that for me. That would be great. I hope that the patron who suggested this is not too mad. I'm sorry if this was your favorite book and I was just meh about it. I fear that that may be a response that I will often have, because the thing about your favorite book is that it's your favorite and you love it, but that doesn't mean it's like the best book ever written, because there is no best book ever written. That doesn't exist. There's only a book that you like better than the others. But if you want me to potentially tear apart your favorite book, you can hop onto my Patreon and hop onto that Boss Me Around level. I do reserve the right to say no to your ideas or suggestions, especially if I cannot find the book as a audiobook, because I really don't have time to read like full books, sit down and read them for review. I just don't. But I am willing to consider it, and we can talk and calibrate and talk about what you like, what kind of video you'd like to see. You guys know I post new videos Mondays and Fridays. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo for ease of your clicking. If you liked what you saw here and you want to watch more of this kind of thing, my channel has been going for a long-ass time, and there are a ton of videos for you to check out. So go check them out. They're all in playlists. Super easy to binge. And I will see all of you again next time with whatever I happen to be doing next time. Bye! Well, look at that. It's time for this month's patrons. This month we have Lennox, Amanda, Jenny, Jesper, Kim, Lisa, Ryakio, Sabby Panda, Sarah, Savvy, and Scribbling Cat. As usual, you guys, you rock my socks off.